This is Daf Yerushalmi Daf Chaf in the article is the other edition. They're right after the Mishnah. Menu, and in the Vilna edition, it's Daf Tesa Mid Beis, also right after the Mishnah. Menu, and the Mishnah said that you can so the person not lach mutter. You can't buy something which is moist from him because it's mukshel kabatuma. But if it's dry, you can buy from him. But how do you know whether it was dry or moist? So now mei aretz are believed to say something was mukshel kabatuma or not mukshel kabatuma. That the Tani came. We also learned this. Amarts believed to say this fruit, these produce remain dry, never became moist, and therefore it's not suitable to become tamei. He's not believed to say, oh, they were mukshar, they did become moist, but they were makabo tuma. So hamiklau du moide bekamaisa. So the from this we can deduce that we can see the first point. So the Bnei Moshe says, Adivrei Rabbi Yehuda Kai. It's going Rabbi Yehuda. Milkamer Aflo Yigadel. He says also, but the person wants the chaver should not grow sheep. Because it must be that he concedes all the other points because he's adding on. Ve'eno misareach it's amoritz, including that you can't be a guest by an amoritz. So the Gemara says, okay, doesn't that Rabbi argue Rabbi Yonah Mar Chavein eno chashum lo lechol velo lachil? Chaverim are not suspect neither of eating nor of giving to eat. It must be over here that we're talking about Tumatara issues. So we're saying this any of Tumatara, and therefore what we said before, this that Rabbi Yehuda said right after in the beginning of Halacha Beis. Rabbi Yehuda Shabbatim Lonim Nulim Nos Marim Misachim it's about Batim Rabem Abirei Nogim Peirusem Misukanim Letoch Batayim Rabbi Yehuda Yonah Chavein Ein Chashim Lo Lechol Lo Lachil. So that there we understood that what Rabbi Yonah is saying that when you eat by your friend, when the chaver eats by his friend, he's misakin right there on the spot, right? So over here, why can we say the same thing? That Rabbi Yonah, why is it arguing Rabbi Yonah? What do you mean? Rabbi Yonah holds that according to Rabbi Yonah, he can be misakin on the spot. He fixes what he's eating in the house of Amoritz. So why does it say please Rabbi Yonah? So therefore, it must. That's the same. There was talking about Tumas and Meisers, and therefore you can fix it. Here it must be talking about Tum and Tara, and therefore you can fix it. So therefore, when the Mishnah says that Yudah says you can eat by an Amoritz, and it's a matter of Tum and Tara, I must argue Rabbi Yonah. Rabbi Yonah says that Chaverim Ein Chashim Lo Lechol Lo Lachil, that they can't eat in a place which they can't fix. And here you see the Rabbi Yehuda holds they can eat in the Amaritz's house even though he's eating tamei. So when it says Shelo Yelech V'Tamei Gufo V'Yavo V'Tamei Taros, that The reason why, according to Rabbi Yonah, they don't eat tuma in their friend by the Amoritz is so that he shouldn't come and be matam his goof by eating there, and come and then eat taros in his own house. So Rabbi Yonah clearly argues. He says we're not chayshish. You can go eat by the house Amoritz. He's not concerned about tuma and tara. So Gemara says, "Rabbi Yossi leisa do plika." Doesn't this even argue on Rabbi Yossi? The Rabbi Yossi Amar chavein chashudim leachol, ben chashudim laachil. The chaverim are they might eat something which is tamei, but they're not going to feed something which is tamei. So the Bnei Moshe says, "Komar told Rabbi Yossi el tefei kasha." More than Rabbi Yossi, you come out leave with Rabbi Yehuda. The tamei b'el mishus fili after yesh chavein chashudim leachol. Come ein chashudim laachil laacherim. It comes out Rabbi Yehuda. Here Rabbi Yehuda says they're not that they are allowed to they are. One second. Here he says in our Mishnah that you can't eat. It says Rabbi Yehuda agrees. Everybody agrees you can't eat. So the Kama says, "Eno misarecha it's amar marcho it's a pasuso." And Rabbi Yehuda says, "Absolutely got it." So you must agree. So who's Rabbi Yossi holding like? Can't hold like Rabbi Yehuda because Rabbi Yehuda agrees. So says Mari, no, it's not a problem. Tamon, meaning here, Kederach Yerushalmi, the taros, like we just said, it's about Tumen Tara. And in terms of Tumen Tara, there Rabbi Yehuda agrees that you can't eat by the Amoritz at all because the issue of Tumen Tara. But Hacha, meaning there, it's L'maisrus. So there, since it's an issue of Meiser, so therefore he can fix it. And since he can fix it, he is going to be able to eat by the Amoritz, even though, but he's not going to, of course, feed an Amoritz, feed anybody something which is not Meiser. Okay, so the Gemara says that Haneman al Taros, Neman al Meisrus. Somebody who's believed has credibility on the Taros is also even Meisrus. Evidently, Taros is not as he's more of a chumrah. So if it's machmir even on Taros, and he's believing that, he's certainly believing in Meisrus. Tana, we learn Ka'aba, anybody who comes to us, means moves into the neighborhood. Anybody who moves into the neighborhood, even if it's known to be a Talmid Chacham, he has to be Mekabel upon himself. So it's interesting with what the Ritba says. Perish. There used to be Yerushalmi, in the second paragraph of Mrs. Besa, the Talmid Chacham Madrega Ketana Min HaChacham. The Talmid Chacham is a lower Madrega Chacham. The Bible don't really differentiate, but the Yerushalmi evidently does differentiate. So I got to Kabel. If a person is a Talmid Chacham, when he comes and moves the neighborhood, it's Mekabel Divrei Chaverus. A Chaver Chacham ain't so Kabel K'nemesik. But a Chaver Chacham does not have to be Mekabel, as we will conclude in a moment. Chaver Chacham ain't a Begeder Talmid Chacham ain't so Kabel. Okay, so let's read it inside. So the Gemara says, "Chacham sheyashav b'yeshiva is already known as I guess Rosh Yeshiva. Ein al Kabbalah shekvar kibula mishash yashav. He must have from the time that he became a Rosh Yeshiva. He must have been a Kabbalah at that time. We assume it's a Kabbalah. Omar Rabbi Law, Busha Kibbala Mishar Rishona. So says Rabbi Law Poli, because Dafka, Pshiadinash Kibbala Mishar Rishona. We don't, just because he was Yoshi B'Shiva, that's not enough credibility. You have to know his Makabel when he was there. I was Stama Lomi in Shabbat Kibel. The Yochel Yos Chaver Chacham. Because the person can be a Chaver Chacham. Umisnai with Taros Kamoritz. But by Taros, he's going to conduct himself like Moritz. Im Lobi Din Kibel. Last we know there was a Makabel. Okay, so that's what it says. Amrilov Vishkibel Mishar Rishona. So Rabbi Yossi asked, what do you mean? Im Mishar Rishona, if we know he's a Makabel already, Mishar Rishona, Lam Li Chaver. I feel Hamoritz. Why does he have to be once he's Makabel, it doesn't matter if it's a Chaver. I think it really should say Chacham instead of Chaver here. But the point is the same. It doesn't matter his stature. Once he is Makabel, he's Makabel. And so Rabbi says, "Well, Rabbi Yossi, im yadin the dafka shekibel mzafil amoritz kamke neman kemachil yesh men chaver chacham amoritz." So the Gemara says, "Asi the Rabbi Law kreish lakish." Rabbi Law is going to kreish lakish. The Shim lakish have a slowly gabi elaine the vase Rabbi Yanai. He would go to the house of Rabbi Yanai, Vavanashaya, and the women of the house, who might have been Nidos, Chazi and Leva Arkim Kamoi. They would see him and they would run away from him. So the Armalun Avolichon Besa. He said, you know what, don't worry about me. He said, as Pnei Moshe says, "Ani alechem to gabayis kamer out to chushu lezeh mi ufonai." Pisha Martzini Eitzel Tarish. Look, Bati Alai Mishar Rishona. I'm a big time Chacham, Reish Lakish, even a Chacham Yoshi B'Shiva, right? But he was never capable upon himself to be makbid on Taros. So therefore, the women did not have to flee when he came into the house. So obviously, according to that's what the Rebbe says. Who Mesik the Asa the Rabbi Lakish Lakish the Bistama Lo Aminan the Vade Chaver Chacham Kibbel Love. So it doesn't matter. We don't rely on anybody, right? So therefore, it could be. You're right. If an Amoritz is Makabel, he's Makabel. You're right, and he won't be any different than a Chacham. But we don't rely on anybody unless we know that they were definitely Makabel. For Raya, look at Reish Lakish, who was one of the Gedolei Ador, and he wasn't Makabel in terms of Taros. Tani, Hu Nan El Chabura. The interesting. The word Chabura means the society of Chaverim, right? So the Baal Boss, he has to respond. In other words, he has to accept Chaverus in front of the Chabura. And so literally he's answerable to them, and his children and the members also, they're answerable to him. So Bnei Moshe says, has to accept in front of it's like a basin or linyane chavrus. They follow him. They don't need their own separate kabbalah. East Tani who bonav and they both send nani mechabera. No, they'll have to go in front of that court of the basin of chaverim. V'lo it's not a machlekes though. Kan betfulin laviem if they are subordinate to their father, so then they don't have to be makabel in the Bentley. In other words, they're somachal shulchano. They eat in his house. They're eating in his house. So then they have the same status as the father. If they're not in the same house, then they don't necessarily have the same status of their father. Tani, and they have to be makabel on themselves. Tani Rav Chavta and Shol Gedolim Nanim Chabura. The older ones are older children have to go to the Chabura. Ketanim, the younger children, then Nanim Lo, they're just their father, they are responsible to the father, and the father is makabel for them. Tani, we learned makrivin leknafayim, v'achacham blamdi letaros. So the Pnei Moshe explains the tchilah makrivin osam shkabel alatzmam letaros yodayim kon machila. The first thing you have to do makabel is to wash your hands before eating, because they give truma and before touching truma. V'achar kach blamdi letaros v'chomesh shar taros midvarim nogi b'hem. And then after that, we go up to the next level of other types of taros. So first we go in levels, in gradations. There are first we accept it for taros yadayim, and then later on for the rest of the issues of taros. It says the knafayim is the first thing, and then madafos, literally shelves, setos, literally moving things. Taros, and then in general taros, and then masros. So says the Bnei Moshe, B'chila tzarich lekabel l'taros yadayim. Chachach l'madafim. What does madafim mean? Lizar min tumakala, a light tuma. Umituma says setos, from things which were from zav moved them, and they therefore came tamei, or you move zav, and therefore you become tamei. That's the next level. And afterwards, Ledin Shmiras Taros, I guess the rest of the halachos, and then finally Lemaisrus. That's the highest level of Chaverus, as we said. Somebody who's believed, actually it contradicts what we said before earlier today. Says somebody who's believed in Taros is believed in Maisrus. It's not true. Here it says that first you accept on Taros and not on Maisrus. That's an interesting issue. So it wouldn't make sense. So the there's a different girsa here, which you really have to go with. Back on top, Chaim changed the girsa. He says, no, he doesn't change girsa there. Sorry. He says that when it said back there, Neman Taros Neman Maisrus, says something was a kabbalah of Chaverus, Linian Tara, Neman Maisrus. When it says kabbalah of Feverish, coming in Maisrus. If it was said kabbalah Tara, so it's also believed on Maisrus. If Chalo, but not the opposite. Neman Maisrus and Neman Taros. That is what we said. Because Taros is more Chamir than Maisrus. Okay, so what's it saying here? So over here, the five madefos vasetos. Then he does explain. There's a Tara saying it's Tara l'chuma ma'isa. Shema ben Yosef l'chuma. Okay, so he explains that here, Taros, it's knafayim, madapos, hetetos, and then Taros, maisros. Not other matters of Tara and then Maisa, which wouldn't really make sense, as we said before. So what it means here, it says Reb Chaim, is the shmira of Tara vis-a-vis Meiser. That's the highest madrega. That he's believed to say the Meiser didn't become Tamei. So again, the lowest level is that he's nizar in Tumas Yodayim. The next level says he's nizar in the easy Tumas, right? Tumas Madafim. The next Madafim, I believe, comes from language of something that you I forget what language is. Madaf means magos. Maybe Rebbe explains here in the article. Find Madafos. He says the term Madafos are items that contract a light degree of tuma. Things are not abatuma. And also things are also Talmud rabbinic. Things are only Talmud rabbinically. The term Madaf stems from Leviticus 23:26, where it says that God will fill the which we partially close like that. The Jewish people will be afraid of him. Kol alen idaf, him of rustling leaf. So the term Madaf refers to something which has a light degree of tuma, such as a rustling leaf. Okay, so it's again they the levels are Knafaim, Madafos, Acetos, and Tarostrum, Mismaisros. 4 Madrigas. Not Knafaim, Madafos, Acetos, Taros, and Maisros, but Knafaim, Madafos, Acetos, Taros, Maisros. So evidently, each level of halacha gets more severe, and therefore there are different madrigas they're more complex. And since they're more complex, then you go through the levels gradually. But initially you say a chaver became a gabe, became a tax collector. He's no longer going to be considered a chaver. Yotza migavioso reu chaver. Once he leaves, well, Pnei Moshe says, what's the Shomot Zachrona? Says the Rishona they would say can't once he becomes a gabbai he loses status of chaver forever. Then later on they say Yotza Megalos or Reika Chaver. Once he leaves the gabos, we take him back. It's as if it says Chodzu Lomar. Yotza Megavoso Hareu Chaver. Here, Babum Shemiel says, "Chavishes the chutzarts ain't dochin also mi chavuroso." Somebody who's went out to chutzarts, even though he becomes tamei by going to chutzarts, that's not enough for him to lose the status of chaverus. Hakatan ain't sar kiruv. Now it's kind of out of left field. It says, "Moshe Odom Rabbi Yochanan Hakatan ain't sar kiruv bifnei chabura and nigra achar aviv who guide Rabbi Chlafton and Chai brings them time." So it's throwing back to what we said before, that a katan does not require his own Kabbalah of Chaverus. Somebody says a different shot here. Indeed, the Gra has a different girsa, that it's supposed to be Hakhamon, Ein Sar Kiruv. That if he comes back to Eretz Yisrael, he doesn't have to reapply to get his chaverus again. He still retains it. Okay. The reason why Gabbai is a tax collector loses chaverus is because sometimes they collect taxes inappropriately. And now we're up to the next Mishnah, Dalet, which is already, of course, on Chaf Aleph, Amud Aleph.